In this video, I'm going to show you how Hannah went from feeling trapped in a business she didn't know how to get out of to doubling her revenue in just 6 months, whilst feeling healthier than she had in years. When we first started working together, Hannah's business looked great from the outside. She had the clients, she had the inquiries, and she had revenue coming in. But inside the business, Hannah felt trapped. She was unclear on what she was building. She felt disconnected from the work. She felt like she never got enough done. So she was mentally and physically exhausted. And she felt like she had built a business she didn't know how to get herself out of. 6 months later, she has doubled both her revenue and profit, built a team, and created a business that no longer depends on her doing everything herself. She has an incredibly clear focus and direction. She's full of confidence in her finances. She has a highly effective lead engine, and she can close her laptop at the end of the day without feeling like she had run herself into the ground to make the business work. In this video, I'm going to break down the 4 levers that created that shift. None of them required Hannah to become a different person or to work harder than she already was. In fact, quite the opposite. Hi, I'm Thea. I'm a former CFO, a scaling strategist, and the founder of CALMM, where we help founder-led businesses scale with more profit, more structure, and less dependence on the person who created them. Here's how Hannah was feeling when we first met.
It was one of the hardest times in business for me, I think. And it wasn't because business was doing bad. Like it was on paper doing really well. We had good clients, we had business, we had loads of inquiries coming in. But me, myself, I was so unclear on what I was building and what direction I was going in. I couldn't decide if this was a lifestyle business, if it was something I wanted to exit, if it was like I had no clear direction on where it was going. So all of this work was just piling up and up and up and up. And it wasn't connecting to an outcome. I wasn't connected to the work. I wasn't connected to the clients. I wasn't connected to anything really. I was just kind of tumbling through a to-do list every day that was bigger than I could possibly even get through in a weekday. And it just felt like I was essentially trapped myself in a business that I didn't know how to get myself out of. And yeah, it was horrible. It just felt dark. It felt tight.
That line, I've trapped myself in a business that I don't know how to get out of, is something I hear weekly. Genuinely. So if you're feeling that way about your business right now, know that you are far from alone. It comes when the business is technically working, but everything is still running through the founder's energy, their judgment, their personal effort. Every client, every decision, every delivery question, and every next move still comes back through that one person. And it works for a while. It gets you off the ground in the early days, but it does not create a business that becomes easier to lead as it grows. Let's look at the 4 levers we focused on to transform Hannah's reality. So we started by looking at the whole business in depth, and we stopped asking, how do we do more? And started asking, what is the business already telling us? The first thing the business was telling us was that Hannah's capacity was already over the edge. And you can hear the knock-on effect of that in how she talks about this period.
Exhaustion. One, exhaustion because I think the actual sheer volume of what I had to do on a daily basis wasn't going to fit into a work day or a work week. And I was constantly trying to get ahead of all of the work that I had on my plate. Exhaustion because I was so unclear on what I was doing that nothing had a real purpose. So I was just overthinking everything or trying the next thing or not sure what to do next, or just constantly my brain was just like, what do I do here? What do I do there? What do I need to do for that campaign? What do I need to do for that client? How am I going to make money there? How am I going to do this? Like these constant conversations that were just happening 24/7 in my head. So like mentally exhausted, physically exhausted because I just didn't have the time to get to the gym. I didn't have the time to look after myself. I didn't have the time to take myself for a walk on my lunch break. Like I put on 15 kilos.
Focusing on capacity can sound a bit soft, especially when the founder is thinking, I need more clients, more revenue, more cash, a clearer plan. But if the person making every important decision is physically and mentally running on empty, the strategy will only go so far, which is why we always start here, even though it feels counterintuitive to the founder.
It felt horrible. Like it felt like the complete opposite to what I needed to do. Like my brain was going, I just need more clients and more money, and then I can buy myself some more freedom. Like that's the order that this is going to work. When you say no, we actually, because the list is still there, right? The list is still as big as it is, but you're now taking away more of my time to complete the list by making me go and do the gym, making me go for a walk and prioritize myself. And I think part of it feels so uncomfortable because one, it's prioritizing yourself and you're like, I've got this objective to do and this is what I've set out to do and yada yada yada, or this is what I've committed to doing. And it can feel really like anti-productive. It can feel really like I don't feel like that's the right answer, but okay. Like I also, I think part of me knew I needed to get back to the gym. Like I needed to go. So there was a little bit that was like, okay, this is the permission. Let me just do it.
To kick this off, we tracked Hannah's time for 2 weeks. To the minute, Hannah tracked what she was doing, how long it took, and whether it was operational work or strategic. The data showed us a lot, but the best thing it showed us was something very simple. Hannah had around 50 to 55 hours of client delivery work sitting inside a week where she only had around 35 hours available. Once you see that written down, it stops being a personal failing and becomes a business design question. Instead of asking, why can't I keep up? It becomes, why has the business model created 55 hours of work for 35 hours of capacity?
When I wrote down the volume of work I had to do, which I think you said somewhere around like 50, 55 hours of work I had, physical client delivery work I had to do, but I could see that my capacity was only I only had 35 hours available to be able to do it. And then I was running these wheels, like I was trying to cram all of this 55 hours into this 35 hours. So at that point I was like, oh, so like the system doesn't, like, of course it doesn't make sense. Like there actually physically isn't enough hours.
And the practical changes here were actually quite simple. Hannah dropped some projects, she moved some tasks to a VA, and streamlined a few of the processes. She also stopped working from home all the time and moved into a co-working space. She went back to the gym, and she started protecting the conditions that made her capable of doing the work well. Those things can look unrelated to revenue and profit, but trust me, they are not. The quality of your decisions as a business owner changes completely depending on the state you're making those decisions from. The same hour can produce two completely different outcomes depending on your energy. That's why this work always has to come first. When Hannah got some of her physical and mental capacity back, she had the bandwidth to do the strategic work. And you can hear how quickly that started to change the way she was experiencing the business.
Moving out of my work from home space massively shifted, because now I was able to mentally compartmentalize home and work. Like that's where I work, that's where I'm at home. And that really gave me some structure and stability from that point of view. And then getting to the gym, getting for the walks, I picked up reading, which was like a huge just joy. That was more so this side of the year, but I don't think I would have got there without kind of having the ability to give myself capacity, without that first bit of just like, let me just get to the gym, let me just get on occasional walks. I'm still nowhere near like walking enough the day that I could be. That's my next one. But when it freed up energy, it freed up like physical energy of being able to like handle stuff. And I remembered I've always been into the gym. Used to be a personal trainer back in my early 20s. Like I've always been physically fit. And one of the things that I really get from weight training in particular is like my positive self-talk. Like when I'm in the middle of a hard set, push a weight up or I get a PB or I'm always talking to myself like I'm the one who's going to do that. Like nothing can stop me, nothing's getting in my way. Like I'm on fire, I'm this, da 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 da. Like it's just this constant talk of like positive self-talk, which if you don't do that, you don't get that in your day. So we get that starting my day, that then kind of getting into my workspace, I was just in such a better energy to be able to do the 35 hours of work and actually get that work done during the day more productively anyway. I probably could get that 55 hours done in the 35 hours with better energy.
Once capacity was no longer an issue, we could talk about direction. When Hannah came to me, she thought she knew what she was building and why. But as we dug into it, she realized she felt quite detached from that vision. She didn't know whether she was building a lifestyle business, an agency she wanted to exit one day, or something else entirely. It's so crucial that we get clear on this before hitting strategy or tactics, because every decision that follows changes depending on that answer. If you're building a lifestyle business, you make one set of decisions. If you're building a business that can grow without you and potentially be sold, you make a different set of decisions. The offers change, the clients change, the team changes, the systems change, the way you use your own time changes. So we did the necessary deep North Star work. Not a lofty vision exercise, but something that could become a practical decision filter. What are you building? Why does it matter to you? What does the business need to become over the next 3 to 5 years to make that possible? What business model will get you there? The point is not to create a nice sentence for a notebook. The point is to give the business a clear direction to make decisions from. When Hannah had that, decisions around clients, team, offers, systems, and her own time became very simple to make.
I'd started building this towards being a lifestyle business where it was just me and my VA in the company, and like I could just get it to a very decent monthly revenue and just live happily ever after. I wasn't connected with that. That wasn't firing up for me. And I've been in business since I was 18, and I was like, this isn't the end game. Like I'm good at this and I like this, and I can build a business out of this. I could do it, but probably not forever or for life. This is the next maybe like 3 to 5 years. And when I kind of started doing the North Star work, what really excites me is building business. I love the game of business. I'm in sales for a reason. Like I love the game of building business, and that I could get my energy behind. So then when I was like, do you know what would be really like, for no other reason than I think it would be cool to me would be to exit this company for a very decent figure and set my future family up for whatever the next stage is for us and whatever the next business is, and give myself some breathing room to be able to kind of play with whatever that next business is, put some money behind it, like build something that can stay for my future family. That's cool. So I was like, look, I'm in a vehicle. It does well. It brings in good money and I know it's scalable. Let me just play with what this looks like to exit in the next 3 to 5 years. And once I tapped into that, I was like, okay, well, now that product range doesn't make sense. So we got rid of that one, which again freed up a load of load of extra time and space and headspace. And then it went down to, right, okay, well, if that's the North Star, we need to get this team in place, which is XYZ. That's how that's going to build. We need these clients in place, which is XYZ. That's how that's going to build. And then suddenly you've got all of this clarity towards which decisions you need to make, which essentially makes the whole thing much easier, right? Because it's kind of not your choice anymore. It's the North Star's choice.
I love the way Hannah says it's the North Star's choice. That is what good strategic clarity does. It removes some of the emotional noise from decisions. You still have to make the call, you still have to do the work, but you are no longer asking every decision to carry the full weight of the future. You have a destination, so the question becomes simpler. Does this move the business toward that destination, or does it pull it sideways? Once Hannah had that, we could look at the numbers properly. The third lever was financial clarity. Not in a technical accounting way, but can you use your numbers to make better decisions? Can you look at your P&L and understand what is happening? Can you see whether the business can afford a hire? Can you model the impact of a new client, a slower month, or a change in delivery cost? Can you tell the difference between a business that is generating revenue and a business that is becoming more profitable, more stable, and easier to lead? Before this work, Hannah had tried to build P&Ls. She used to sit with it for a few hours, feel like she'd done the responsible business owner thing, and then not look at it again for months. The shift came when the numbers stopped being a box-ticking exercise and became a decision tool. There was one session with me that Hannah nearly missed because she was too busy. Classic. Client deadlines, delivery work, all the normal reasons. I said, just pop in for 5 minutes and say hi. She did, but she stayed for 2 hours. And in that session, she built her P&L, she added a cash flow bridge, she stress tested the worst case scenario around hiring a new team member, and left knowing what decision to make. That is what financial clarity is meant to do. It's not a spreadsheet for the sake of a spreadsheet. It's the business answering a question in real time. Can we afford this? What happens if this client moves? What happens if we hire before the next contract is signed? What does the model tell us? That's a very different way of leading the business. Listen to what happened in this session, because this is the P&L doing its real job, helping Hannah make a clear decision.
I need to get this P&L done. Like I just need to do it, and I just haven't had the time to do it. And you're like, well, why don't you just do it now? And I was like, well, okay, we're doing it now, are we? And gratefully, it was a quieter session that day. So I think you had another couple of clients that you were chatting to. So I just sat, I did my P&L. Once I'd done it, there was still some time left at the end of the session. Then we chatted again and we went, right, okay, this is what this looks like. We put in the cash flow bridge. We run through like worst case scenario. If like everything went to shit and this was like the worst case scenario, would we go under if we hired someone, plugged in all the numbers, plugged it in, and we were like, no, we're good. I was like, great. Okay, so it was one of the most productive 2 hours that we could have spent for sure. So I'm very glad. So now I don't miss a Wednesday. I'm in every week.
That's the difference between guessing and leading from evidence. Before, the hiring decision lived in Hannah's nervous system. Can I do this? Is this a risk? What if the money isn't there in 3 months? Afterwards, it lived in the model. That doesn't remove all the risk. Business still involves judgment, but it changes the quality of the judgment because you're no longer making decisions in the dark. The fourth lever was Hannah's lead engine. This one is great because it's such a clear example of leveraging the assets that are already sitting inside the business. Hannah had 2 years of Fathom recorded sales calls, every prospect conversation, every objection, every reason someone bought, every reason someone hesitated, and every phrase her best clients used to describe the problem. It was all sitting there. That is a strategic asset. Rather than needing to get clever and create a content strategy for her, we leveraged this data. Hannah pulled the transcripts, focused on the clients she actually wanted more of, and used AI to find the patterns in their language, their objections, their pain points, and their buying triggers. Then she used that to shape her LinkedIn content. Same founder, same service, much better evidence. Listen to how Hannah describes this, because the content strategy didn't come from guessing what to say, it came from reading the language already sitting inside her business.
It didn't take long, a couple of hours of just kind of pulling out every transcript of every sales call that we've had across the past 2 years, and then more specifically with the ideal clients. So who actually turned into like great clients that I want to work with, and how can I copy and paste them? Because it doesn't matter that I've had 100 sales calls with people that I don't want to work with. They're really focused on the ones that like, how can I get more of these people, and how can I build marketing materials, content around bringing those people into our world. Or normally includes a lot of swearing, it includes a lot of like just being a normal person. But in doing that, we were able to obviously feed it all back through AI, put in our prompts, figure out kind of what those patterns are, what, and analyze the data between them, build even the packages out towards like what do they need, what are those key like pain points that they're going through, what is the main objection off the back of this, like getting all of that like good stuff out of the data, and then turn it back into kind of a content strategy, especially for LinkedIn. That's kind of been my primary focus at the moment.
The important thing here is not only that Hannah's pipeline improved in terms of volume, it's that the quality of the pipeline improved too. Because once the content was built from the language of her best clients, it started attracting more of the right people. That's why looking inside the business at what can be leveraged really matters at this stage. The next move is often already visible. It's sitting in your client calls, your delivery notes, your best testimonials, your P&L, or the patterns that your team is seeing every week. So what changed? Well, Hannah doubled her revenue and her profit. She moved from working solo with a VA to building a team. She created a clear North Star for the business and started making decisions from that direction. She's confidently reading and using her business finances. She's turned 2 years of sales conversations into a content strategy that brings in 4 to 5 good quality LinkedIn leads every single week. And the result I care about the most is the change in how she feels inside the business. Because the point is not to build a business that looks impressive and feels awful to run. The point is a business that can grow with more profit, more structure, and more capacity for the founder. And I want you to hear how Hannah describes the change, because this is the real payoff. The numbers matter, of course, but this is what those numbers gave her.
I'd say my mindset more than anything, like in terms of how I talk to myself, my ability to set a big goal and go and get it, rather than set a big goal and like just spin my wheels and not get there, or just like not be able, like just feel so far away from it all the time. And I think now every time I set something, it's not huge. It's just like a stretch, a doable stretch. And then I hit it and I can set the next one. So it's less about this kind of like big ostentatious goal that I'm like running towards and then like spinning my wheels and falling off. And now it's like these smaller, like I can get there, I can do that, then the next level, get there, do that, then the next level. And it's so much more kind of, I'm able to talk to myself so much nicer because now I'm someone that does what she says that she's going to do. So in terms of like mindset, I can think bigger, like this is where it can go, this is how big it can be, this is how much responsibility I can hold, this is what I can do next, this is da 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 da. Whereas before, I felt like I was that person, but I couldn't get to be that person. Like I couldn't get there, even though I knew that I could do it. I couldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I felt at that time. So like just in terms of the mindset of like how I talk to myself, that has changed huge. And then that's obviously had a knock-on effect on both the health, fitness. My relationship is in a much better place. Even though like the work is challenging, but I'm not stressed anymore. Like if I don't get something done in a day, I don't get it done in a day. I'll still prioritize what I need to get done and like I'll work hard during the hours that I've got. But if I don't get it done, it just moves over to the next day and I don't carry that like guilt and shame of like I need to run myself in the ground to make this a successful business. Like that's not true anymore. As much done as I can get done, close my laptop, have a nice evening, and then move on to the next day.
And this is the bit I would end Hannah's story on. Not the revenue, but the fact that she now believes the business she wants is actually reachable. The 4 levers in Hannah's business were simple. They always are when we look at them with fresh, experienced eyes, but none of us can really do that from inside the business. If you recognize yourself in Hannah's story and you want senior thinking inside your business that will accelerate your goals, that's exactly what CALMM is built for. It's strategy, finance, operations, technology, and people working together around your unique business so that it can scale with more profit, more structure, and less dependence on you. There's a link below to explore CALMM and see whether it's the right next step for you. And if this breakdown was useful, subscribe to this channel. I make videos for founders who want to build a business that becomes easier to read, easier to lead, and much better to live with. I'll see you in the next one.